The moment Zara stepped into the ballroom, she knew, without hesitation, without doubt, she was utterly, catastrophically doomed. For there, scarcely 10 feet away, laughing with a cluster of admiring ladies as though society itself bent to his amusement, stood the man she had rejected 8 years ago. Once, he had simply been Dominic, brilliant, earnest, heartbreakingly sincere, a man with neither title nor fortune and, according to her father, practically allergic to financial prospects. Now, he is the Earl of Stormford, wealthy enough to purchase the entire ballroom, cold enough to chill it, and most insultingly so devastatingly handsome that it feels like a personal deliberate offence. And the worst part? He is ignoring her, with precision, with mastery, with the kind of polished indifference only an English nobleman could perfect. Meanwhile, Zara is quietly unravelling because, 1, she still loves him. 2, he still hates her. 3, she would very much like him back, please and thank you. Except Dominic would sooner freeze over the Thames than allow her within arm's reach, because he remembers. Every word, every wound, and he has forgiven precisely none of it. This is not a reunion. This is retribution in a perfectly tailored coat. Chapter 1. The Ghost of New York. You look positively green, Zara. Are you going to be sick? Zara Mansoor tore her gaze from the rain-streaked carriage window and managed a wan smile for her sister. I'm perfectly well, Layla, just tired from the journey. Liar. Layla leaned forward, her dark eyes sparkling with excitement despite 3 weeks at sea. You've been brooding since we left New York. Anyone would think you're dreading my wedding instead of celebrating it. Don't be ridiculous. I'm thrilled for you. Then why do you look like you're heading to your own execution? Because London held ghosts Zara wasn't ready to face, but she couldn't say that. Not when Layla was practically vibrating with joy about marrying Viscount Hartley. Her little sister had achieved what their parents had dreamed of for years, a match with British aristocracy. The Mansour family, wealthy American shipping magnates with more money than pedigree, was finally buying its way into respectability. I'm 28 and unmarried, Zara said instead. Mother will spend the entire visit parading eligible men in front of me like prize horses at auction. Well, you did refuse 7 perfectly good proposals. Layla tilted her head, studying Zara with the kind of perception that made her dangerous. Why is that, anyway? Mr. Ashford was handsome and rich. Mr. DeWitt practically worshipped you. And Mr. Preston has breath like a fish and the conversation skills of a brick. Layla laughed. You're impossible to please. No, Zara thought, watching London's grey streets roll past. I was pleased once. I just wasn't brave enough to keep it. The carriage lurched to a stop outside Hartley House, an imposing townhouse in Mayfair. Within moments, they were swept into a chaos of servants' luggage and their mother's shrill voice directing traffic like a general commanding troops. Zara, stand up straight. Layla, darling, Lord Hartley sent flowers. 3 dozen roses. Isn't that divine? The housekeeper says there's a ball tonight at Lady Pemberton's. The creme de la creme of society will be there. You must both look your absolute best. Mother, Zara interrupted gently, we've just arrived, perhaps. Nonsense. Lady Pemberton specifically invited us because Layla is marrying her nephew. We cannot possibly decline. Now go upstairs and rest. I'll have the maid prepare your gowns. The emerald silk for you, Zara. It brings out your eyes. Zara escaped to her assigned bedchamber, a luxurious space decorated in pale blues and creams. She sank onto the bed, exhaustion pulling at her bones. Not from the journey, from 8 years of carrying regret like stones in her pockets. Stop it, she told herself firmly. You made your choice. Live with it. But God, it was hard. Especially here, in England, where Dominic had been born, where he'd returned after she'd shattered his heart with lies. I don't love you enough to give up everything for you. She'd practiced those words for days before saying them, had forced them out while he stood there, disbelief and devastation written across his face. The simple ring he'd offered, his grandmother's, the only thing of value he owned, had trembled in his hand. I see, he'd said quietly. I'm not enough for you. No, you're not, she'd lied, and he'd left. Just walked away, and Zara had crumpled to the floor the moment he was gone, sobbing so hard she'd made herself sick. Her father had found her there. You did the right thing, daughter. Love fades. Comfort endures. But comfort without love wasn't comfort at all. It was just a gilded cage, A sharp knock interrupted her spiralling thoughts. "Miss Mansoor? Miss Mansoor? I'm here to help you dress for the ball." Zara closed her eyes. "Of course, come in." Lady Pemberton's ballroom glittered like a jewellery box, all crystal chandeliers, polished marble, and guests draped in silks and jewels. Zara entered on her father's arm, her mother and Layla trailing behind, and felt immediately overwhelmed by the sheer opulence of it all. "There's Lord Hartley!" Layla gasped, already pulling away toward a tall, pleasant-looking gentleman near the refreshment table. "Decorum, Layla," their mother hissed, but she was smiling. Lord Hartley was handsome, wealthy, and utterly besotted with Layla, everything the Mansoors had dreamed of. "Miss Mansoor, how lovely you look this evening." Zara turned to find an older woman with kind eyes and an elaborate turban studying her. "Lady Pemberton? Indeed. Welcome to London, my dear. Your sister speaks of you constantly. Apparently you're quite the accomplished horsewoman." "I enjoy riding, yes. Splendid. You must join our party at Hyde Park tomorrow morning. All the best people ride there." Lady Pemberton leaned closer, lowering her voice conspiratorially. "And between you and me, it's the only place to see the truly eligible bachelors before the ambitious mamas get their hooks in them." Despite herself, Zara smiled. "I'll keep that in mind." "Do. Now I must introduce you around. Can't have you standing alone like a wallflower. Oh, there's Lord Stormford. Perfect." Zara's heart stuttered. "I'm sorry, who?" "Lord Stormford, the Earl of Ravenhill. Quite the catch, wealthy, titled, and devastatingly handsome. A bit cold, mind you. Earned the nickname Storm for his temperament as much as his name. But still, every unmarried woman in London has set her cap at him." Lady Pemberton waved enthusiastically across the ballroom. "He's just there, by the oh dear, he's rather surrounded, isn't he?" Zara followed her gaze and stopped breathing. Because there, across the crowded ballroom, surrounded by admirers and glittering like he'd been born to it, stood Dominic Calloway. Except he wasn't Dominic anymore. Couldn't be. Dominic had been a younger son with no prospects, no fortune, no title. Dominic had worn borrowed coats and dreamed of making enough money to buy a small estate someday. This man wore tailored evening clothes that probably cost more than most people earned in a year, moved with the easy confidence of someone who'd never doubted his place in the world, commanded attention simply by existing. "Miss Mansoor, are you quite all right? You've gone terribly pale." "Aye." Zara's voice came out strangled. "Lord Stormford, you said?" "Yes, dear. The Earl of Ravenhill, inherited 4 years ago when his father and brother died in a carriage accident. Tragic, really, but it made him one of the wealthiest men in England practically overnight. Why do you ask? Because 8 years ago, Dominic Calloway had been nobody, and now he was an earl, one of the wealthiest, most eligible bachelors in England." The room tilted slightly. Zara grabbed Lady Pemberton's arm to steady herself. "Oh my, you really aren't well, are you? Let me fetch you some lemonade." "No." The word came out sharper than intended. Zara softened her tone. "No, thank you. I just need a moment. Perhaps some air?" "Of course, dear. The terrace is just through those doors. Shall I accompany you?" "I'll be fine. Thank you." Zara fled before Lady Pemberton could protest, her mind reeling. Dominic. Here, an earl. She'd spent 8 years convincing herself she'd done the right thing, that rejecting him had saved them both from a life of poverty and resentment, that her father had been right about the impossibility of their match. But Dominic wasn't poor anymore. He was Lord Stormford. He had everything she'd supposedly needed, everything her family had demanded. "This changes nothing," she told herself firmly, gripping the terrace railing. "You still broke his heart. You still lied to him. He probably despises you, but maybe if she could just explain. Tell him the truth about why she'd said no. Surely after 8 years the wounds had healed enough for him to listen? Are you running from someone or just dramatically staring at the moon?" Zara spun. Layla stood in the doorway, grinning. "Neither. I needed air." Well, you're missing quite the spectacle inside. Lord Stormford just arrived. Apparently he rarely attends balls, so everyone's falling over themselves to talk to him. Mother's practically drooling. She's already scheming how to engineer an introduction." Zara's stomach dropped. "She is?" "Oh yes. Think of it, Zara. An earl! And you're so beautiful. Surely he'd be interested." I had to remind her you've refused 7 proposals already, but she seems to think a title might succeed where mere wealth failed. Layla paused, studying Zara's face. "Are you sure you're all right? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Close enough." "I'm fine," Zara lied. "Just tired." "Well, come back inside. I want you to meet David's friends, and Mother will have a fit if you hide out here all evening." Zara let herself be pulled back into the ballroom, her heart hammering against her ribs. She should leave. Claim a headache and escape before. "There you are." Their mother materialized like a silk-clad whirlwind, gripping Zara's elbow. "I've been looking everywhere. Come, I've arranged an introduction to Lord Stormford. Such a coup. Lady Pemberton was kind enough to—" "Mother, I don't think." "Nonsense. You look lovely in that gown, and he's unattached. This is exactly the kind of match we've been hoping for." "No," Zara thought desperately. "Not like this. I need time. I need to think." But her mother was already towing her across the ballroom, straight toward the cluster of people surrounding Dominic. Zara's pulse roared in her ears. Maybe he wouldn't recognize her. 8 years changed people. Maybe her mother stopped at the edge of the group. "Lord Stormford?" He turned, and Zara's breath caught. 8 years had been impossibly kind to Dominic Calloway. He'd always been handsome, but now he was devastating. Sharper cheekbones, broader shoulders, an air of command that hadn't existed before. His dark hair was still the same, falling slightly over his forehead in that way she'd loved. But his eyes had changed. They'd been warm once, full of laughter and dreams. Now they were cool, assessing, guarded. "Yes?" His voice was different too, deeper, with an edge of aristocratic boredom that made Zara's chest ache. "Forgive the intrusion, my lord, but I simply had to introduce my daughter. This is Miss Zara Mansoor, recently arrived from New York." Dominic's gaze slid to Zara. For one heartbeat, one single suspended moment, she saw recognition flash across his face. And something else. Something that might have been joy or pain or longing. Then his expression shuttered completely, smooth as a door slamming shut. "Miss Mansoor." He inclined his head with perfect, distant politeness. "A pleasure." Zara's throat closed. He was pretending not to know her, pretending they were strangers. "My lord," she managed, her voice barely steady. "My daughter has just arrived for her sister's wedding to Viscount Hartley," her mother continued, oblivious to the tension crackling between them. "We're from New York. The shipping business, you know. Perhaps you've heard of Mansoor trading?" "I'm afraid I don't involve myself much in trade," Dominic said smoothly. The implied dismissal made Zara's mother flush. Of course. Well, I simply thought, that is, Zara is an accomplished young woman. She rides beautifully, speaks 3 languages, plays piano." "Mother," Zara whispered, mortified, "please." "How accomplished?" Dominic said, his tone suggesting he found her accomplishments as interesting as dishwater. "If you'll excuse me, I've promised this dance to Lady Beatrice." As if summoned, a beautiful blonde woman appeared at his elbow, her arm sliding through his with practiced ease. She was stunning. Porcelain skin, sapphire eyes, a figure that would make angels weep. "Darling," she purred, "you promised me a waltz." "So I did." Dominic smiled at Lady Beatrice, warm and charming in a way that made Zara's heart crack. That was how he used to smile at her. "If you'll excuse us, Miss Mansoor." He said her name like it meant nothing, like she was a stranger he'd met at a party and would forget by morning. Then he walked away without a backward glance, Lady Beatrice laughing at something he murmured, leaving Zara standing in the middle of the ballroom with her mother's hand on her arm and the ruins of her hopes scattered around her feet. "Well," her mother said, clearly struggling to salvage the situation. "He was rather brusque, wasn't he? Perhaps English earls are simply more reserved than—" "Excuse me," Zara interrupted, her voice hollow. "I need some air." She fled again, this time to the ladies' retiring room, where she locked herself in and pressed her hands against her burning cheeks. He pretended not to know me. 8 years. 8 years of regret, of wondering, of wishing she'd been braver. And Dominic, no Lord Stormford, had looked at her like she was nothing. Like their summer together hadn't happened. Like his proposal and her rejection and the way they'd both cried when he left had all been erased. Or maybe not erased. Maybe just irrelevant. He's moved on, she realized with crushing clarity. Of course he has. It's been 8 years. He's an earl now, wealthy and powerful, with beautiful women like Lady Beatrice on his arm. Why would he care about the girl who broke his heart? A knock on the door made her jump. "Zara? Are you in there?" "Layla, of course." "I'm fine," Zara called, wiping her eyes quickly. "You're clearly not fine. Let me in." Zara unlocked the door. Layla slipped inside, took one look at her sister's face and sighed. "It's Lord Stormford, isn't it?" Zara's laugh came out broken. "Am I that obvious? To me, always." Layla gripped Zara's hands. "What happened? Did he say something cruel?" "No, he said nothing. He looked at me like I was nobody. Maybe he didn't recognize you. 8 years is a long time." "He recognized me." Zara was certain of that. She'd seen it in that first flash of emotion before he'd shut it down. "He just doesn't care." "Then he's a fool," Layla said fiercely. "And you're better off without him." If only that were true. Zara took a shaky breath, forcing herself to straighten. "You're right, it was years ago. I need to let it go." "Good. Now, shall we return to the ball? David wants to introduce you to his friends, and I promise none of them will be cold or dismissive." Zara let herself be led back into the ballroom, past the whirling dancers and chattering groups. She kept her eyes averted from the dance floor, where Dominic was surely still waltzing with the lovely Lady Beatrice. "This is fine," she told herself. "He's moved on. You need to as well." But as the evening wore on, through introductions to David's friends, through polite conversations with society matrons, through her mother's increasingly desperate attempts to engineer another encounter with Lord Stormford, Zara couldn't stop watching him. He was so different. Colder. Harder. The Dominic she'd known had laughed easily, had looked at the world with wonder and optimism despite his lack of prospects. This man, Lord Stormford, moved through the ballroom like a shark through water, polite but distant, charming when necessary, utterly untouchable, and he never, not once, looked at Zara. "There you are." Her mother appeared again, practically vibrating with excitement. "I've just heard the most wonderful news. Lady Thornbury is hosting a garden party at Lord Stormford's country estate soon, and through Lady Pemberton's influence, we've been invited. Isn't that marvellous?" Zara's stomach dropped. "A garden party?" "Yes, at Ravenhill Manor. All the most important families will be there. It's the perfect opportunity for you to make a better impression. I don't know what went wrong earlier, but—" "Nothing went wrong," Zara said faintly. "He simply wasn't interested." "Nonsense, he barely spoke to you. Next time you must be more charming. Smile more. Ask him about his estate. Men love to talk about their accomplishments." Zara barely heard her mother's strategy session. A garden party. At Dominic's estate. Watching him charm other women while pretending Zara didn't exist. It sounded like exquisite torture. "I don't think I should go," she said. "Don't be ridiculous. This is exactly the kind of event that could secure your future. And honestly, Zara, after refusing 7 perfectly good proposals, you owe it to the family to at least try." Guilt twisted in Zara's gut. Her mother was right about one thing. She'd been selfish, turning down match after match because none of them were Dominic. Maybe it was time to accept reality. Dominic had become Lord Stormford, and Lord Stormford wanted nothing to do with her. "Fine," she said quietly, "I'll go." Her mother beamed. "Wonderful. Now let's discuss what you'll wear. First impressions are crucial, and we need to." Zara let the words wash over her, her gaze drifting back to the dance floor one last time. Dominic, Lord Stormford, was laughing at something Lady Beatrice said, his hand resting possessively on her waist as they waltzed. He looked happy, confident, utterly at ease. He looked like a man who'd forgotten all about the girl who broke his heart 8 years ago. And Zara, watching him pretend she didn't exist, realized something that made her chest ache with fresh pain. She was about to discover that second chances were significantly more complicated than first ones. Chapter 2. Lord Stormford. He's devastatingly handsome, isn't he? Zara nearly dropped her teacup. Lady Pemberton had materialized beside her like a cheerful spectre, following Zara's gaze across the morning room to where Lord Stormford stood in conversation with Lord Hartley and several other gentlemen. I hadn't noticed, Zara lied. "Oh, my dear, every woman in London has noticed, though I must say he's terribly difficult to approach. Polite, of course, impeccable manners, but there's a coldness about him that keeps everyone at arm's length." Lady Pemberton leaned closer, lowering her voice. "They call him Storm, you know. Started as a play on Stormford, but it suits his temperament remarkably well." Zara's fingers tightened on her teacup. Storm, how fitting. The warm, laughing Dominic she'd known had vanished, replaced by someone who looked at the world through frost-covered glass. "I've heard the story is quite tragic," Lady Pemberton continued, clearly settling in for a proper gossip. "His father and elder brother died 4 years ago. Carriage accident on the road to Bath. Absolutely devastating. Lord Stormford, well, he was just Mr. Calloway then, was travelling somewhere on the continent. Italy, I believe. Or perhaps Greece. Regardless, he came home to find himself suddenly an earl with estates in 3 counties and a fortune that would make Croesus weep." Zara's breath caught. That must have been terrible for him. "Oh, dreadfully. Though between you and me, I think something else wounded him before that. He returned from America years ago, positively heartbroken. Wouldn't speak of it, but one could tell. A woman, certainly. There's no other explanation for that particular brand of misery." Lady Pemberton sighed dramatically. "Then to lose his family so soon after? The poor man. No wonder he's built such walls." "I built those walls," Zara thought, guilt churning in her stomach. "I put the first stones in place. Still," Lady Pemberton brightened, "he's remarkably eligible now. Every ambitious mama in the ton has thrown her daughter at him. He's courteous to all of them and interested in precisely none, though he does seem rather attentive to Lady Beatrice lately. The Harrington chit with the blonde hair, have you met her?" "Briefly." Zara had spent the past 3 days trying very hard not to notice how often Lady Beatrice appeared at Storm's elbow, her hand resting possessively on his arm. Lovely girl. No substance whatsoever, but lovely. Her father's an earl, respectable bloodlines, substantial dowry. It would be a perfectly suitable match. Lady Pemberton paused, studying Zara with shrewd eyes. "Though I confess I saw the way Lord Stormford looked at you at my ball, just for a moment before he shuttered it away. Rather intense, that look, almost like he knew you." Zara's pulse jumped. "I can't imagine why he would. We're strangers." How curious. Well, stranger or not, you're invited to Lady Thornbury's garden party later next week, aren't you? Lord Stormford will be there. He rarely attends these things, much more host one, but Lady Thornbury is his godmother, so he can hardly refuse. Perhaps you'll have an opportunity to make a better impression. Lady Thornbury's garden party was an assault of pastel muslins. Zara endured 45 minutes of discussing the weather, the latest fashions, and Layla's upcoming wedding before she finally spotted Storm standing alone near a rose arbour, looking thoroughly bored. Her heart hammered against her ribs. This was her chance. No crowds, no interruptions, just the two of them and the truth she desperately needed to say. She approached carefully, half expecting him to bolt the moment he saw her. He didn't. He simply watched her come, his expression neutral, those dark eyes giving nothing away. "Lord Stormford," she said, pleased her voice came out steady. "Miss Mansoor." He inclined his head with perfect distant politeness. "Lovely party." If one enjoys insipid conversation and terrible lemonade, certainly. Despite everything, Zara almost smiled. There, just for a second, she'd heard an echo of the sardonic Dominic she'd known. The lemonade is rather dreadful. Lady Thornbury insists on making it herself. She's convinced she has a talent for it. She does not. An awkward silence fell. Storm made no move to fill it, just stood there watching her with those cool, assessing eyes. Zara took a breath. "I was hoping we might speak privately." "Were you?" "Please, just for a moment." Storm glanced around the garden. Several guests were watching them with barely disguised curiosity. "Very well, though I can't imagine what we have to discuss." He gestured toward a path leading deeper into the garden, away from prying eyes. Zara followed, her hands trembling slightly. When they were sufficiently alone, surrounded by roses and out of earshot, she turned to face him. "I want to talk about what happened between us." "Ah." Storm's expression didn't change. "I wondered when we'd arrive at this. 8 years ago in New York, I rejected my proposal. Yes, Miss Mansoor, I remember, quite vividly actually. The casual way he said it made Zara flinch. I made a terrible mistake. Did you?" He tilted his head, studying her like she was a mildly interesting insect. "I recall you being quite clear about your feelings. Something about me not being good enough, if memory serves." "That's not. I never said. You said you didn't love me enough to give up your comfortable life. That I should find someone more suited to my station." Storm's voice remained perfectly pleasant, but each word landed like a blow. "Those were your exact words, I believe." Zara's throat tightened. I lied. How convenient. Dominic, please. It's Lord Stormford, actually, or simply Storm, if you prefer. I'm afraid Dominic died somewhere between New York and here, unfortunate casualty of youthful optimism. Don't do this, Zara whispered. Don't pretend you don't feel anything. Feel anything? Storm laughed, sharp and bitter. Miss Mansoor, I assure you, I feel a great many things. Boredom, primarily. This conversation is rather tedious. I was 20 years old. My father said he'd disown me completely if I married you. No inheritance, no support, nothing. I was terrified. Of poverty. Yes, I understand. You chose money over love. It's a perfectly rational choice, really. I don't fault you for it. That's not. Zara's hands clenched into fists. I was trying to protect both of us. I thought we'd end up destitute and miserable, and you'd resent me for it. How thoughtful. Storm's smile could have cut glass. Tell me, Miss Mansoor, when exactly did this sudden crisis of conscience occur? Was it before or after you discovered I'd inherited an earldom? The accusation hit like a slap. I didn't know about the earldom. I came to England for Layla's wedding, not to. Chase my title? How remarkably convenient that fate has reunited us then. Here you are, unattached and available. Here I am, wealthy and titled. One might almost think it was meant to be. You don't believe that? Don't I? Storm stepped closer, and Zara's breath caught. He was near enough now that she could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes, smell the faint scent of sandalwood and something uniquely him. Let me ask you something, Miss Mansoor. If I were still penniless Dominic Calloway, younger son with no prospects, would you be here right now? Would you be seeking me out, begging for a second chance? Yes, Zara said desperately. I've regretted what I did every single day for 8 years. I turned down 7 marriage proposals because none of them were you. I never stopped. Loving me? Storm finished, his voice dripping with mockery. How touching. And yet, you never wrote. Never tried to contact me. Never reached out in all those years. Your love must be very quiet indeed. You told me you never wanted to see me again. And you believed me? Good God, Miss Mansoor, I was heartbroken and furious. Of course I said things I didn't mean, love, but you had 8 years to reach out, to explain, to do anything other than wait until I conveniently became wealthy enough to meet your standards. That's not fair, Zara whispered, tears pricking her eyes. Isn't it? Storm's expression hardened. You made your choice 8 years ago. You chose your family's money and social position over a future with a man who wasn't rich enough. That's your right, of course. But please don't insult my intelligence by pretending you've suddenly developed feelings for me now that my circumstances have changed. We both know what you really want. I want to apologize. I want to explain. There's nothing to explain. Storm's voice went cold, final. You were young, practical, and mercenary. Many people are. I don't fault you for it. I simply want nothing to do with you. He turned to leave. Dominic, wait. It's Storm. He didn't look back. And this conversation is over, Miss Mansoor. I suggest you focus your attentions elsewhere. I'm quite beyond redemption, I assure you. Then he was gone, striding back toward the party, leaving Zara standing alone among the roses with tears streaming down her face. The following evening, the wedding party attended the theatre. Zara had tried to beg off with a headache, but her mother wouldn't hear of it. Lord Stormford will be there, she'd said, as if this were an inducement rather than torture. You must make a better impression, Zara. Smile more. Be charming. So here Zara sat in the Hartley family box, excruciatingly aware that Storm was seated directly to her left. Lady Beatrice, naturally, was on his other side, her blonde head tilted toward him as she whispered something that made him smile. That smile, the one he used to give Zara, now bestowed on a woman who probably didn't even know his middle name. It was Alexander, Dominic Alexander Calloway, now Lord Stormford, Earl of Ravenhill. Quite the production, isn't it? Layla said brightly from Zara's right, clearly trying to help. What do you think, Lord Stormford? Storm glanced past Zara as if she were invisible. Adequate, Lady Lila, though I confess I prefer Shakespeare to modern dramatics. Oh, me too. Don't you agree, Zara? You love Shakespeare. Zara shot her sister a warning look. It's enjoyable, yes. Lord Stormford, my sister has the most wonderful memory for quotations. She can recite entire sonnets. Isn't that impressive? Fascinating, Storm said, his tone suggesting it was anything but. He turned to Lady Beatrice. My dear, would you care for refreshments during intermission? I hear they have excellent champagne." "How thoughtful." Lady Beatrice beamed at him. "You're always so attentive, Storm." Zara's nails dug into her palms. She forced herself to watch the stage, to focus on the performance, to ignore the way Storm's shoulder was mere inches from hers. Intermission arrived like a reprieve. Storm immediately stood, offering his arm to Lady Beatrice. "Lord Stormford," Zara said before she could stop herself. "Might I have a word?" He finally looked at her directly, his expression polite and utterly blank. "I'm afraid I've promised Lady Beatrice refreshments, Miss Mansoor. Perhaps another time. It will only take a moment." "Lady Beatrice." Storm extended his arm, completely cutting off Zara mid-sentence. Lady Beatrice took it with a triumphant little smile. "Of course, darling. I'm absolutely parched." They swept from the box, leaving Zara sitting there with heat flooding her cheeks. Around her, several people studiously avoided looking at her, which somehow made it worse. "That was unspeakably rude," Layla hissed. "That was a clear message," Zara corrected quietly. "He wants nothing to do with me, Layla. I need to accept that." "I don't accept it. He's being a stubborn, prideful. He's protecting himself. I can't blame him for that." But God, it hurt. Watching him lavish attention on Lady Beatrice while treating Zara like an inconvenient piece of furniture. This was her punishment, she supposed. 8 years of regret condensed into acute, immediate humiliation. The second half of the performance passed in a blur. Zara couldn't have said what happened on stage. All her awareness was focused on the man beside her, who was determinedly ignoring her existence. When the evening finally ended, Zara fled to the carriage before anyone could suggest further socializing. "That was dreadful," her mother pronounced, climbing in after her. "I don't understand what you did to offend Lord Stormford, but you must fix it immediately. He's exactly the sort of match we've been hoping for." "He's not interested, Mother." "Then make him interested. Smile more. Be more charming. Good heavens, Zara, it's as if you don't even want to marry well." "I wanted to marry for love," Zara thought tiredly. "I had my chance and threw it away. Now I get to watch him fall in love with someone else." The next morning dawned grey and drizzling, perfectly matching Zara's mood. She dressed mechanically, endured breakfast with her mother's strategic planning, and finally escaped to the library with a headache that was only half feigned. "Miss Mansoor?" Zara looked up to find a maid hovering in the doorway. "Yes?" "Begging your pardon, miss, but I overheard some of the other staff talking. Lord Stormford rides in Hyde Park every morning at 7 o'clock. Quite regular about it, apparently." Zara's heart jumped. "Does he?" "Yes, miss. Just thought you might like to know." The maid bobbed a curtsy and disappeared. Layla. This had Layla's meddling written all over it. Zara should ignore the information. Storm had made his feelings abundantly clear. Chasing him through Hyde Park would only confirm his worst suspicions about her motives. But God help her. She was desperate. Hyde Park at dawn was beautiful and nearly deserted. Zara urged her horse along Rotten Row, scanning the misty paths for any sign of there. A lone rider in the distance, moving with easy confidence. Even from 100 yards away, she knew it was him. Zara's heart hammered as she guided her mare forward, timing her approach to look accidental. When she drew close enough, she called out, "Lord Stormford, what a pleasant surprise." Storm reined in his stallion, his expression suggesting it was anything but pleasant. "Miss Mansoor, how unexpected." "I often ride in the mornings," Zara lied. "The park is lovely at this hour, don't you think?" "Quite." He made no move to continue the conversation, just sat there on his horse, clearly waiting for her to leave. Zara refused to make it easy for him. "Might I ride with you? Just for a bit?" "I prefer to ride alone." "Please, I won't take much of your time." Storm's jaw tightened. "Miss Mansoor, I thought I made myself clear yesterday and the day before. I have no interest in resuming our acquaintance. I'm not asking you to resume anything. I just want to explain, to apologize, to convince me that you've harbored secret feelings all these years." His voice cut like a whip. "Save your breath. I know exactly what this is." "You don't know anything about what I've felt." "Don't I?" Storm's eyes blazed with sudden fury. "You made your choice 8 years ago, Miss Mansoor. You chose your family's money and social position over a future with a man who wasn't rich enough. That's your right, of course, but please don't insult my intelligence by pretending you've suddenly developed feelings for me now that my circumstances have changed. We both know what you really want. I want to apologize. Zara's voice broke. I want to explain that I was young and scared, and I made a terrible mistake. There's nothing to explain. Storm's voice went cold as winter. You were young, practical, and mercenary. Many people are. I don't fault you for it. I simply want nothing to do with you. That's not fair. Fair? Storm laughed bitterly. You want to discuss fairness? Very well. Was it fair to tell me you loved me, to accept my proposal and then reject me with the explanation that I wasn't good enough? Was it fair to let me spend 8 years believing I was too poor, too insignificant, too fundamentally inadequate for you? And now that I have a title and a fortune, you want absolution? I never said you weren't good enough. I said I wasn't brave enough. The result is the same. Storm gathered his reins, his expression shutting down. This conversation is over. I suggest you focus your considerable charms elsewhere, Miss Mansoor. I'm quite beyond redemption. Dominic, please. It's Lord Stormford. His voice could have frozen fire. And if you continue to seek me out, I'll be forced to cut you entirely. Is that what you want? To be publicly snubbed by an earl? I assure you, it won't help your social standing. The threat landed like a physical blow. Zara's hands trembled on the reins. I don't care about social standing, she whispered. I care about you. How touching. Pity you didn't care 8 years ago when it actually mattered. Storm's eyes swept over her one last time, cold and dismissive. Good day, Miss Mansoor. I trust we won't have this conversation again. He spurred his horse forward, leaving Zara sitting alone in the misty park, tears streaming down her face. She'd lost him, completely, utterly lost him, and this time she had no one to blame but herself. Chapter 3. Inescapable, I have the most wonderful news. Layla burst into Zara's bedchamber without knocking, her face alight with excitement. Zara looked up from the book she'd been staring at without reading for the past hour. Does it involve me never having to see Lord Stormford again? Don't be silly. No, this is even better. Lady Beatrice Harrington is David's sister. Isn't that marvellous? The book slipped from Zara's fingers. What? Lady Beatrice, the blonde Storm's been squiring about. She's David's younger sister, which makes her my future sister-in-law. We'll be family. Layla flopped onto the bed, oblivious to Zara's dawning horror. She's been abroad for ages, finishing school in Switzerland or some such, which is why I hadn't met her until now, but she's back for the wedding, and she's absolutely delightful. A bit vapid, perhaps, but terribly sweet. Layla, Zara said carefully, if Lady Beatrice is Lord Hartley's sister, then she'll be at every single wedding event, the dinner party tomorrow, the treasure hunt at Hartley Manor on Thursday, the charades evening, all the balls. Oh, this is perfect. You'll have so many opportunities to see Storm and convince him you're sincere. Or, Zara said faintly, I'll have to watch him court her at every event while he pretends I don't exist. Layla's enthusiasm dimmed slightly. Well, when you put it that way, it does sound rather dreadful, but Zara, you can't give up. True love is worth fighting for. What if he doesn't want to be fought for? Then we'll make him want it. Layla sat up, her expression turning determined. I have a plan. Zara's stomach sank. Please don't have a plan. Too late. The seating arrangements for tomorrow's dinner are being finalized. I'll make sure you're placed next to Storm. Absolutely not. And at the treasure hunt, I'll partner you together. Forced proximity, you see? He'll have to talk to you. Layla, this is a terrible idea. Nonsense. How else will you convince him you're genuine? You need time together without all these other people interfering. Layla grabbed Zara's hands, her eyes pleading. Please let me help. I can't bear watching you be miserable when the man you love is right here. The man she loved was right here, and he hated her. But Zara was too tired to argue with her sister's romantic optimism. Fine, do what you must. But when it fails spectacularly, I don't want to hear, I told you so. It won't fail. Layla kissed her cheek and bounced toward the door. You'll see, everything will work out perfectly. After she left, Zara retrieved her fallen book and tried not to imagine all the ways this could go catastrophically wrong. The dinner party at Hartley House was an exercise in exquisite torture. Storm sat to Zara's left, Lady Beatrice to his left, creating a triangle of awkwardness that made Zara want to crawl under the table. She'd spent 30 minutes getting dressed, another 20 having her hair arranged, all for a man who was currently acting as if she didn't exist. "The pheasant is excellent, don't you think, Storm?" Lady Beatrice asked, leaning toward him with a smile that showed perfect teeth. "Indeed, Lord Hartley's cook is exceptional. I hear you have a French chef at Ravenhill. Is it true he trained in Paris?" "For several years, yes." "How exotic. You must tell me all about your estate. I'm absolutely fascinated by." "Miss Mansoor," interrupted the elderly gentleman on Zara's right, Lord something or other, she'd forgotten his name. "I understand you're from New York. Tell me, is it true Americans eat their dinner at 5 o'clock like common labourers?" Zara suppressed a sigh. "We dine at perfectly civilized hours, my lord, though I confess our portions may be somewhat larger than what's fashionable here." "Larger? Good God! No wonder Americans are so robust, built for pioneering, I suppose. Not much call for delicacy when one is wrestling bears." "We don't actually wrestle bears, sir." "Don't you? How disappointing." On her left, Storm laughed at something Lady Beatrice said, a genuine laugh, warm and rich. The sound made Zara's chest ache with familiarity. She'd loved his laugh once, had spent an entire summer trying to coax it out of him as often as possible. Now he was giving it to someone else. "Lord Stormford," Zara said quietly, desperate to be acknowledged. "How do you find the pheasant?" Storm took a deliberate sip of wine before responding. "Adequate." That was it. One word. Then he turned back to Lady Beatrice, who was describing her recent trip to Bath in exhausting detail. Across the table, Layla caught Zara's eye and mouthed, "Talk to him." Zara tried again. "I hear Ravenhill Manor has extensive rose gardens. Do you enjoy?" "Lady Beatrice," Storm said, cutting Zara off mid-sentence. "You mentioned visiting the assembly rooms. Were they very crowded?" "Oh, dreadfully. I could barely move without stepping on someone's hem, though the music was lovely. Do you dance much, Storm?" "When the occasion demands it." "How wonderful. Perhaps you'll partner me for the waltz at tomorrow's ball." "It would be my pleasure." Zara stared at her plate, willing herself not to react, not to show how much each casual dismissal stung. She was being publicly snubbed, and everyone at the table could see it. The rest of dinner passed in a blur of stilted conversation with Lord whatever his name was, and the excruciating awareness of Storm's shoulder inches from hers. Close enough to touch, but impossibly distant. When the ladies finally withdrew to the drawing room, leaving the men to their port, Zara escaped to the terrace for air. That was absolutely brutal. Zara spun to find the Dowager Duchess of Wycliffe, the elegant woman from Lady Pemberton's ball, standing in the doorway, an amused expression on her face. "I don't know what you mean, Your Grace." "Please, I watched Lord Stormford ignore you for 2 solid hours while fawning over that insipid Harrington girl. Either you've mortally offended him, or there's history between you." The Duchess stepped closer, her sharp eyes assessing. "I'm guessing history." Zara's throat tightened. "It's complicated. The best things usually are." The Duchess handed Zara a glass of sherry. When had she acquired that? "A word of advice, dear. Storm is punishing you. I don't know what you did to deserve it, but he's quite deliberately making you suffer." "I know. Do you deserve it?" The blunt question startled a laugh from Zara. "Probably. Yes." Well, at least you're honest." The Duchess sipped her sherry, considering. "He's not indifferent to you, you know? A man who's truly indifferent doesn't work so hard to ignore someone. He'd simply not notice you at all." "That's not particularly comforting." "Isn't it? Indifference can't be changed, my dear. But anger can be transformed." The Duchess patted Zara's arm. "Though I'd prepare yourself for more suffering first. Storm's not the forgiving type." She swept back inside, leaving Zara alone with her sherry and her misery. The treasure hunt at Hartley Manor 2 days later was Layla's masterstroke of meddling. "Storm and Zara, your partners," she announced brightly, handing them a ribbon-tied clue. "Isn't that perfect?" Storm's expression suggested it was anything but perfect. "Lady Layla, perhaps." "Oh, but the teams are all arranged. You can't possibly change now. Besides, you're both so clever. I'm sure you'll win." Layla beamed at them with aggressive cheerfulness before flitting away to organize the other teams. Storm stared at the clue in his hand like it had personally offended him. We don't have to do this, Zara said quietly. I can claim a headache. And give everyone something to gossip about? No. We'll participate, find whatever ridiculous items Lady Layla has hidden, and end this farce as quickly as possible. He unfolded the clue without looking at her. The first item is in the library. This way. He strode off toward the house. Zara followed, feeling like an unwanted dog trailing its master. The library was deserted, afternoon sun streaming through tall windows. Storm scanned the shelves with single-minded focus, clearly determined to solve this as efficiently as possible and escape her presence. There! He pointed to a small silver box tucked between two volumes of poetry. That must be it. Zara reached for the box at the same moment Storm did. Their fingers brushed just barely, the merest contact, and Storm jerked back like he'd been burned. My apologies, he said stiffly. It's fine. I'll just... Zara retrieved the box, opened it, and found another clue. The rose garden. Something about where love blooms eternal. How nauseatingly poetic, Storm muttered. Shall we? The rose garden was extensive, dozens of varieties in full bloom. Storm stalked through them with military precision, examining each section. This is ridiculous, he said after several minutes of fruitless searching. There must be 200 roses here. The clue said where love blooms eternal. Perhaps it means a specific variety? Some roses are called. I'm aware of rose varieties, Miss Mansoor. I do have extensive gardens at Ravenhill. Of course. I didn't mean to imply. There. Storm pointed to a white rose bush in the corner. A small flag was tucked among the blooms. He retrieved it, glanced at the next clue, and his jaw tightened. The stables. They walked in silence. Zara desperately wanted to say something, anything, but Storm's entire posture screamed, "Leave me alone." In the stables, the clue led them to a chestnut mare's stall. Storm retrieved the hidden item, a small painted egg, with brisk efficiency. That's the last one, he said. We should return to the house. Storm, please. Don't. He finally looked at her, his eyes hard. Don't use my name. Don't try to engage me in conversation. Don't pretend this forced proximity means something. It doesn't. I just want to talk. No, you want absolution. You want me to say I understand, that I forgive you, that we can start fresh. I'm not interested in providing any of those things. He stepped closer, his voice dropping. Do you know what I am interested in, Miss Mansoor? Watching you realize that some mistakes can't be fixed, that some bridges once burned can't be rebuilt. That's cruel. Is it? You broke my heart. Forgive me if I'm not particularly concerned about your feelings now. He strode out of the stables, leaving Zara standing there with tears pricking her eyes. They won the treasure hunt. Storm accepted the congratulations with gracious charm, smiled at everyone who praised their teamwork, and didn't look at Zara once. Carade's night was somehow worse. Layla, undeterred by the disaster of the treasure hunt, had paired Zara and Storm again. You'll be brilliant together. They were not brilliant together. They were catastrophically bad. When it was their turn, Storm drew the card, glanced at it, and sighed heavily. He began acting out the clue, something involving elaborate hand gestures and what might have been swimming motions. Fish? Zara guessed. Storm shook his head impatiently. Ocean? Water? Drowning? He gave her a look of withering disdain and continued his mime. I have no idea what you're doing. It's obvious, Storm snapped, breaking the rules entirely by speaking. It's not obvious at all. Ah, you look like you're having a seizure. It's Gulliver's Travels. How can you not see that? How is anyone supposed to guess Gulliver's Travels from? Zara waved her hands in a mocking imitation. Whatever that was. Perhaps if you were paying attention instead of staring at me with wounded puppy eyes. I am not making puppy eyes. Time, called Lord Hartley, looking amused. I'm afraid that's a point for the other team. Storm stalked back to his seat, radiating frustration. The next team went, then the next. When it was Zara and Storm's turn again, Zara drew the card this time, Romeo and Juliet. She tried to act out the balcony scene. Storm stared at her blankly. Climbing? He guessed. Ladder? Architecture? Zara made exaggerated kissing motions. Good God, I don't know. Scandal? Impropriety? It's Romeo and Juliet, Zara finally burst out. How was I supposed to derive Shakespeare from you making obscene gestures? They weren't obscene! I was acting out romance. You were flailing about like a demented bird. Across the room, several people were trying not to laugh. Lady Beatrice looked positively delighted at their dysfunction. "Perhaps we should forfeit," Zara said quietly. "Excellent idea." Storm stood. "I'm afraid Miss Mansoor and I must withdraw. Irreconcilable creative differences." He offered his arm to Lady Beatrice, who took it with a triumphant smile, and led her toward the refreshment table, leaving Zara standing alone in front of everyone. "That went well," Layla said weakly, appearing at Zara's side. "Please stop trying to help. But, Layla, I love you. But every time you force us together, he treats me worse. Can you please just let it go?" Layla's face crumpled. "I'm sorry. I just thought I wanted you to be happy." "I know." Zara hugged her sister, "but some things can't be fixed, not even by you." The ball 3 nights later was held at the home of the Duke and Duchess of Wycliffe, a massive affair with half of London's aristocracy in attendance. Zara had tried to beg off, but her mother had been adamant. "Lord Stormford will be there. You must try again." "He's not interested, Mother." "Then make him interested. Good heavens, Zara, it's as if you enjoy being difficult." So Zara attended, wearing a gown of deep emerald silk that had cost a small fortune, her hair arranged in elaborate curls. She looked beautiful. She felt miserable. Storm arrived fashionably late, Lady Beatrice on his arm as usual. They made a striking couple, him dark and commanding, her fair and delicate. Zara watched them waltz together and felt something crack in her chest. She escaped to the terrace for air, then thought better of it. Terraces had been the site of too many humiliating encounters lately. Instead, she wandered toward a quieter corner of the ballroom, half hidden behind a marble pillar. That's when she heard the voices. "That American woman is still trying to corner you." The Duke of Wycliffe. She recognized his voice from earlier introductions. "The Mansoor heiress. Quite determined, isn't she?" "She's wasting her time." Storm's voice cold and cutting. "She had her chance 8 years ago and made her choice. Now that I have money and a title, she's suddenly discovered feelings. How touching." Zara's breath stopped. She should leave, should move away before she heard more. But her feet had rooted to the floor. "You don't think she might genuinely regret her choice?" Wycliffe asked. "You did love her once, didn't you?" A pause. Then Storm laughed, bitter and sharp. "I was a fool once. I'm not anymore. Miss Mansoor is welcome to chase after my title all she likes. She'll never have it." "Rather harsh, don't you think?" "Is it? She rejected me when I had nothing to offer. Told me quite clearly that I wasn't good enough for her. Now I'm rich and titled and suddenly she's discovered she made a mistake. I'm supposed to believe that's genuine?" "People do change, Storm. She was young. And practical. I don't fault her for choosing money over love. It's a rational choice. But I'll be damned if I reward it now." Another pause. "Besides, Lady Beatrice is far more suitable. Good family, appropriate connections, no complicated history. She'll make an excellent countess." "You're going to marry her?" "Eventually. Why not? Marriage is a practical arrangement. Love has nothing to do with it." Zara's hands shook. She pressed them against the pillar, trying to steady herself. "That's rather cynical, even for you. It's realistic. Love is for fools and poets. I prefer to keep my heart well guarded, thank you. Less chance of it being trampled again." "By Miss Mansoor, you mean?" "By anyone." Storm's voice dropped. "But particularly by Miss Mansoor. She taught me a valuable lesson 8 years ago. Sentiment is a luxury I can't afford. I should thank her, really. She made me practical." Footsteps indicated they were moving away. Zara stayed frozen behind the pillar, Storm's words echoing in her head. "She's wasting her time. I was a fool once, I'm not anymore. She'll never have it." This was what he truly thought. Not just anger over old wounds, but genuine contempt. He believed she was a gold digger, a social climber who'd rejected him when he was poor and now wanted him because he was rich. It wasn't true. But how could she prove it when he'd already decided the narrative? Worse. He was planning to marry Lady Beatrice. To choose a practical, loveless marriage because Zara had broken him so thoroughly he didn't believe in love anymore. She'd done that, destroyed something beautiful and turned Dominic into Storm, a man who guarded his heart behind walls of ice and cynicism. "There you are!" Zara jumped. Layla appeared beside her, slightly breathless. "Are you hiding? Mother's been looking everywhere." Layla stopped, studying Zara's face. "What's wrong? You look devastated." "I overheard Storm talking to the Duke of Wycliffe." Zara's voice came out hollow. "He thinks I'm chasing his title, That I only want him now because he's rich. That's ridiculous. Is it? From his perspective, it makes perfect sense. I rejected him when he was poor. Now he's an earl, and suddenly I'm desperate to explain and apologize. Why would he believe my motives are pure? Because they are. You've loved him for 8 years. He doesn't know that. All he knows is that I chose money over love once. Why wouldn't I do it again? Zara took a shaky breath. He's going to marry Lady Beatrice. He told Wycliffe it would be a practical match. No. Lila gripped Zara's arms. You can't give up now. You have to fight for him. How? How do I prove I love him for himself when the only evidence he has says the opposite? How do I convince him I'm genuine when every attempt I make just confirms his worst suspicions? Layla opened her mouth, then closed it, clearly at a loss. Exactly, Zara said quietly. There's no way to win this, Layla. I destroyed what we had 8 years ago. Now I get to watch him marry someone else and build the practical, emotionless life I taught him to want. That's not fair. It's not about fairness, it's about consequences. Zara straightened, forcing steel into her spine. I made my choice 8 years ago. Now I have to live with it. Behind them, the orchestra struck up another waltz. Through the crowd, Zara could see Storm leading Lady Beatrice onto the dance floor, his hand resting possessively on her waist. She looked away before he could meet her eyes. Some wounds, she was learning, didn't heal just because you wanted them to. Some mistakes couldn't be fixed, no matter how desperately you regretted them. And some men, once lost, stayed lost forever. Chapter 4. Trapped by the Storm. I don't see why we must attend, Zara said, watching her maid pack yet another gown into the travelling trunk. Surely my presence isn't essential for a country house party. Her mother looked up from her own packing list, exasperated. Lord Stormford himself is hosting. To decline would be a grave insult. Besides, Layla and Lord Hartley will be there, along with all the most important families. This is exactly the sort of event where connections are made. I have no desire to make connections. Then make amends. Her mother's voice softened slightly. Whatever you did to offend Lord Stormford, you must repair it. He's far too eligible to antagonize. If only it were that simple. 3 days trapped at Ravenhill Manor with Storm. 3 days of watching him ignore her while courting Lady Beatrice. 3 days of torture disguised as a social event. The carriage leaves in an hour, her mother said. Do try to look pleasant, darling. Melancholy is so aging. Ravenhill Manor rose from the Hampshire countryside like something from a Gothic novel, all grey stone, towering turrets and ancient oaks. Storm's estate was magnificent, exactly the sort of property that would have made Zara's father swoon with envy 8 years ago. Now it just made her chest ache. This could have been hers. This life, this home, this man, all of it could have been hers if she'd been braver. Good heavens, Layla breathed beside her in the carriage. It's enormous. Look at those gardens. Formal gardens stretched in every direction, perfectly manicured despite the grey October sky. As their carriage rolled up the circular drive, Zara counted at least a dozen other vehicles already present. All of London seems to be here, her mother observed with satisfaction. Lord Stormford certainly knows how to host. Storm himself stood at the entrance, greeting guests with practiced charm. He wore country clothes, riding boots, buff breeches, a dark coat that emphasized his broad shoulders. He looked every inch the wealthy earl, completely at ease in his domain. When their carriage stopped, a footman rushed to open the door. Zara descended, her legs unsteady after hours of travel. Lord and Lady Hartley, how delightful! Storm's voice carried across the drive. And Lady Layla, Miss Mansoor, Mrs. Mansoor, welcome to Ravenhill. He bowed politely, his eyes skating over Zara without really seeing her. The same treatment she'd received for weeks now. What a magnificent estate, my lord, Zara's mother gushed. We're honoured to be invited. The honour is mine. I do hope you'll find your accommodations comfortable. Mrs. Henshaw will show you to your rooms. Storm gestured to the housekeeper, already moving to greet the next arriving guests. Dismissed. Again, inside Ravenhill was even more impressive. Soaring ceilings, oil paintings in gilded frames, furniture that probably cost more than most people earned in a lifetime. Zara was shown to a lavish bedchamber decorated in blues and creams, with windows overlooking the rose gardens. Dinner is at 8, miss, the young maid said, bobbing a curtsy. His lordship requests everyone gather in the drawing room at 7:30 for drinks. Left alone, Zara sank onto the bed and tried to calculate how many hours she'd have to endure before this weekend ended. 72, give or take. 72 hours of watching Storm pretend she didn't exist. She could survive this. Probably. The drawing room that evening was crowded with glittering society, at least 30 guests, all dressed in their finest. Zara spotted Lady Beatrice immediately, resplendent in pink silk, her hand resting possessively on Storm's arm. "There you are!" Layla appeared at Zara's elbow. "Isn't this wonderful? Lord Stormford's hospitality is impeccable." "Wonderful," Zara echoed hollowly. "I've been thinking, perhaps during the house party you could—" "No," Zara cut her off gently. "No more scheming, Layla. Please, it only makes things worse." Layla's face fell, but she nodded. "If you're certain." Dinner was an elaborate affair. 9 courses, excellent wine, sparkling conversation. Zara was seated between Lord Hartley's elderly uncle and a pleasant baronet who talked extensively about his hunting dogs. Storm sat at the head of the table, miles away, with Lady Beatrice to his right. After dinner, the ladies withdrew while the men drank port. The Dowager Duchess of Wycliffe, who seemed to appear at every social event Zara attended, settled beside her with a knowing look. "You seem thoroughly miserable, my dear." "I'm perfectly well, Your Grace." "Liar. You've been staring at Storm all evening with the most tragic expression. If you're trying to win him back, that's not the approach I'd recommend." Zara's cheeks heated. "I'm not trying to win him back." "No? Then what are you doing here?" "My sister's wedding. Requires your attendance at a country house party hosted by a man who's been publicly snubbing you for weeks." The Duchess raised an eyebrow. "I wasn't born yesterday, child." Zara took a shaky breath. "It doesn't matter what I'm trying to do. He's made his feelings abundantly clear. He thinks I'm chasing his title." "Are you?" "No. I didn't even know he was an earl when I came to England. I came for Layla's wedding and—" Her voice broke slightly. "And seeing him again has been the most painful and wonderful thing that's ever happened to me." The Duchess studied her for a long moment. "You genuinely love him." "I never stopped, even when I should have." Well, that complicates things." The Duchess sipped her sherry thoughtfully. "Storm's convinced you're mercenary. You need to prove otherwise." "How? He won't even speak to me." "Then make him speak to you. Figgy, corner him somewhere he can't escape. Force him to listen." The Duchess smiled. "Though I'd wait for the right moment. Men are remarkably stubborn when they feel cornered." Before Zara could respond, the men rejoined them, bringing the scent of tobacco and brandy. Storm immediately gravitated to Lady Beatrice, who laughed at something he said with practiced delight. "Cards!" announced Lord Hartley. "Who's for whist?" Tables were arranged. Zara found herself partnered with the elderly uncle again, Lord Pemberton, she learned, against 2 ladies who took their card playing very seriously. At the next table, Storm played with Lady Beatrice as his partner. They won hand after hand, Storm's strategic mind clearly superior to everyone else's. "Your lordship is quite the card sharp," Lady Beatrice said admiringly, merely observant. Storm laid down a winning card. "The trick is remembering what's been played." "How clever! I can barely remember what I had for breakfast." Storm smiled indulgently. "Then it's fortunate you have beauty to compensate for memory." Zara's cards blurred in front of her. She played poorly, apologizing repeatedly to Lord Pemberton, who was gracious about her incompetence. The evening finally ended near midnight. Zara escaped to her room, exhausted from smiling and pretending everything was fine. She'd barely changed into her nightdress when the wind picked up, rattling the windows. Rain began, light at first, then increasingly heavy. By morning, it was a full storm. Chapter 5. What We Lost. The storm showed no signs of relenting by morning. Zara woke to the sound of rain battering her windows and wind howling through the eaves like something alive and furious. She dressed carefully, her hands trembling slightly as her maid laced her corset. Last night in the library, Storm had said he'd listen. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was something. A crack in the frozen wall he'd built between them. "Don't get your hopes up," she warned herself. One conversation doesn't undo 8 years, but her traitorous heart refused to listen. Breakfast was a subdued affair. The trapped guests were beginning to show signs of restlessness. Cards and conversation could only occupy so many hours. Outside, the grounds had transformed into a muddy quagmire, ruling out any possibility of outdoor activities. "How long do you think we'll be imprisoned here?" Lady Beatrice asked, delicately nibbling toast. "Not that I'm complaining, of course. Ravenhill is perfectly charming." "My steward says at least 2 more days," Storm replied. "Possibly 3. The bridge damage is extensive." 3 days. Well, I suppose we'll have to make the best of it. Lady Beatrice smiled at him. "Perhaps you could show me the portrait gallery this afternoon. I'm fascinated by family history." "If you wish." Zara focused on her tea, trying to ignore the familiar twist in her chest. Lady Beatrice had every right to pursue Storm. She was beautiful, suitable, unencumbered by complicated history. Everything Zara wasn't. "Miss Mansoor, you're very quiet this morning," the Dowager Duchess observed from across the table. "Not feeling poorly, I hope?" "Just tired, Your Grace. The storm kept us all awake, I imagine. Such dreadful weather." The Duchess's eyes sparkled with mischief. "Though I confess, there's something rather romantic about being trapped in a grand estate during a tempest, like something from a novel." "If one enjoys Gothic horror," muttered the Duke of Wycliffe, "I was thinking more along the lines of romance, actually." The Duchess glanced meaningfully between Zara and Storm. Forced proximity, heightened emotions, secrets revealed, all the necessary ingredients. Storm's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Lady Beatrice looked confused. "I'm not sure I follow, Your Grace," she said. "No, dear, I don't imagine you do." The Duchess took a sip of tea, clearly enjoying herself. Some stories are more complicated than others. After breakfast, Zara escaped to the music room, a beautiful space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the rain-soaked gardens. A pianoforte sat in the corner, and Zara found herself drawn to it. She hadn't played in weeks. Her fingers found the keys hesitantly, testing a simple melody. "I didn't know you played." Zara's hands stilled. Storm stood in the doorway, watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "I'm not very good," she said. "Just competent enough to avoid embarrassing my mother at social occasions." "May I?" He gestured to the room. "It's your house." Storm crossed to the windows, standing with his hands clasped behind his back. "I meant what I said last night, about listening." Zara's pulse quickened. "I wasn't sure if you'd remember, or if you'd regret it this morning." "I remember everything, unfortunately." He turned to face her. "And I don't regret it, though I'm not entirely certain what happens now." "Now? We can't simply pick up where we left off 8 years ago. Too much has changed." "I know." Zara's fingers drifted over the keys, playing soft notes without thinking. "I'm not expecting that. I'd like to know you again, if you'll let me." "Know me?" Storm's mouth quirked slightly. "I'm not sure there's much to know. I've become rather boring, actually. An earl concerned with crop rotations and tenant issues." "Somehow I doubt that." "Don't you? I spend most of my time reviewing ledgers and attending parliamentary sessions. Terribly dull. You're trying to scare me off. Is it working?" Despite everything, Zara smiled. "No." Storm studied her for a long moment. Then he crossed to the pianoforte, settling on the bench beside her, careful to maintain distance, but close enough that Zara could smell sandalwood and something uniquely him. "Play something," he said quietly. "I told you, I'm not very good." "I don't care. Play." Zara's hands trembled as she began a simple piece, something her tutor had taught her years ago. She made mistakes, fumbled notes, but Storm didn't comment. He just listened, his eyes on her fingers. When she finished, silence fell between them. "You always bit your lip when you concentrated," Storm said softly. "You used to do that in New York. I'd forgotten. I didn't realize you noticed. I noticed everything about you. Every gesture, every expression." His voice roughened. "It made forgetting you rather impossible." Zara's throat tightened. "Did you try? To forget?" "Constantly. For 4 years I tried to erase every memory of that summer. I traveled to Italy, Greece, Egypt, anywhere that wasn't New York or England. I thought distance would help." He laughed bitterly. "It didn't." "I'm sorry. Stop apologizing. It's not." Storm broke off, rubbing his face. "I don't want your apologies, Zara. I want to understand. Why now? Why are you trying so desperately when 8 years ago you walked away?" "Because I was 20 and terrified and convinced I was protecting both of us. Now I'm 28, and I've had 8 years to realize that safety without happiness is just a different kind of prison." Zara turned to face him fully. "I've watched everyone around me fall in love and marry and build lives, and every single time I've thought about you, about what we could have had if I'd been braver." Storm's eyes searched her face. "What about your family? If they objected then, they'll object now, unless you think my title makes me acceptable. I don't care what they think anymore. Easy to say, harder to live with. Is it? I've spent 8 years living with their approval and my own misery. I'm rather tired of it." A ghost of a smile crossed Storm's face. "You've developed a spine, Miss Mansoor. Tragedy will do that. Losing you was rather educational." "I'm not sure educational is how I'd describe heartbreak." "What would you call it?" Storm was quiet for a moment. "Transformative. 8 years ago, I believed in love and romance and happy endings. You disabused me of those notions rather thoroughly. And now? Now I'm not sure what I believe." He stood abruptly, crossing back to the windows. "Lady Beatrice thinks I should marry her. Have you noticed?" The words landed like a blow. "I've noticed. She'd make a perfectly suitable countess. Good family, appropriate connections, no complicated history. My steward approves. My man of business approves. Even my godmother thinks it's a sensible match. Then why haven't you proposed?" Storm's shoulders tensed. "Because every time I consider it, I think about you, and I hate myself for it." Zara stood, crossing to him slowly. "Dominic, don't." But he didn't move away. "Don't give me hope. I can't survive losing you again." "You won't lose me. You can't promise that." He finally looked at her, and the raw vulnerability in his eyes made Zara's breath catch. 8 years ago, you promised to love me forever. 2 weeks later, you rejected me. Why should I trust any promise you make now?" It was a fair question, a devastating one. "You shouldn't," Zara said honestly. "I broke your trust. I have to earn it back. And I will, Dominic. However long it takes, I'll prove that I mean what I say. And if I marry Lady Beatrice in the meantime?" The thought made Zara's chest constrict painfully. "Then I'll have no one to blame but myself. But I'll spend the rest of my life knowing I fought for you this time, that I didn't let fear win twice." Storm's hand lifted, almost unconsciously, to touch her face. His fingers brushed her cheek, feather-light, and Zara's eyes fluttered closed. "I want to believe you," he whispered. "God help me, I want to." "Then believe me." For a heartbeat, Zara thought he might kiss her. His thumb traced her jawline, his breath warm against her skin. The air between them crackled with tension and longing and 8 years of unresolved feelings. Then Storm stepped back, his hand falling away. "I can't," he said roughly. "Not yet. I need time. To think, to figure out if I'm being rational or just repeating old mistakes." Disappointment flooded through Zara, but she forced herself to nod. "I understand." "Do you? Because I'm not sure I do." Storm moved toward the door, then paused. "For what it's worth, Miss Mansoor, I don't hate you. I tried. It would be easier if I did, but I don't." He left before Zara could respond, leaving her alone in the music room with her racing heart and fragile hope. The afternoon passed in a blur of forced sociability. Zara endured tea with the other ladies, contributed to conversation about fashion and gossip, and tried not to watch Storm escort Lady Beatrice through the portrait gallery. By evening, restlessness drove her to the library again. She'd barely settled with a book when Layla appeared, looking concerned. "There you are! I've been searching everywhere. Are you all right? You seemed rather distracted at tea." "I'm fine." "Liar." Layla settled beside her. "What happened? Did you speak with Storm again?" Zara hesitated, then told her sister about the morning conversation. Layla listened intently, her expression shifting from hope to concern. "He's wavering," she said when Zara finished. "That's good, isn't it? I don't know. He's terrified of being hurt again, and I can't blame him. But he didn't propose to Lady Beatrice. That's something. Yet. He hasn't proposed yet." Zara closed her book, unable to focus. "What if I'm too late, Layla? What if the damage is irreparable?" "Then you'll have tried. That's more than you did 8 years ago." The words stung because they were true. 8 years ago, Zara had given up without fighting. Now, at least she was fighting. Even if she lost, she'd know she'd tried. "Lady Layla, Miss Mansoor." A footman appeared in the doorway. "His lordship requests everyone gather in the drawing room. There's to be dancing." Dancing, of course. Because being trapped in a house with Storm wasn't torture enough without adding waltzes to the mix. The drawing room had been transformed, furniture pushed back, a small ensemble of musicians arranged in the corner. The trapped guests seemed grateful for the entertainment, already forming sets for a country dance. Storm stood near the fireplace, Lady Beatrice at his side as usual. He looked up when Zara entered, their eyes meeting across the room. Something flickered in his expression, longing, maybe, or regret. "Miss Mansoor!" The Duke of Wycliffe appeared at her elbow. "You look like you need rescuing. Dance with me?" Grateful for the distraction, Zara accepted. Wycliffe was an excellent dancer, guiding her through the steps with easy confidence. "Storm's been watching you all evening," he observed, trying very hard to pretend he isn't, but watching nonetheless. Zara missed a step. "I'm sure you're mistaken." "I'm not. I've known Storm for 15 years. I've never seen him this unsettled by anyone." Wycliffe spun her expertly. "What did you do to him, Miss Mansoor? He returned from America 8 years ago completely heartbroken, wouldn't speak of it, but one could tell. And now you appear and he's all sharp edges and poorly concealed emotion. It's complicated. The best things usually are." The dance ended, and Wycliffe bowed. "A word of advice? Don't give up on him. Beneath all that ice, he's still the romantic fool who believed in love. He's just forgotten how." Before Zara could respond, the musicians struck up a waltz. Around the room, couples paired off. Storm led Lady Beatrice onto the floor, his hands settling on her waist with practiced ease. Zara looked away, unable to watch. "Miss Mansoor." Storm's voice, quiet and unexpected. She turned. He stood before her, Lady Beatrice nowhere in sight, his hand extended. "Dance with me," he said. Not a request, a command. Zara's heart hammered. "What about Lady Beatrice? I asked her to sit this one out. Dance with me, Zara." She took his hand. The moment Storm pulled her into waltz position, the world narrowed to just the two of them. His hand at her waist, burning through the fabric of her gown. Her hand in his, their fingers intertwined, the scant inches between them, crackling with tension. They moved together perfectly, the same natural synchronicity they'd had 8 years ago, as if their bodies remembered even when their hearts were still uncertain. "You're staring," Storm murmured. "So are you." His mouth quirked slightly. "True." They turned, swept along by the music. Zara was acutely aware of every point of contact, his hand firm against her back, his thumb tracing small circles on her waist that surely he didn't realize he was doing. "Why did you ask me to dance?" she asked softly. "I'm not sure. Temporary insanity, perhaps. Shall I return you to Lady Beatrice? I wouldn't want to enable your madness." "Don't." His grip tightened fractionally. "Don't mention her. Not right now." "Why not?" "Because when I'm this close to you, I can't think about anything else, and it's driving me insane." Zara's breath caught. "Dominic, do you remember the first time we danced? In New York?" "Of course. It was at the Astor's ball. You stepped on my hem." "I was nervous. You were the most beautiful woman in the room, and I couldn't believe you'd agreed to dance with me." Storm's voice dropped lower. "You wore pale blue, and you laughed when I apologized for the 3rd time about your hem. I thought you were charming. I thought you were a miracle." The music swelled around them. Storm pulled her infinitesimally closer, still proper but barely. Zara could feel the heat of him, the solid strength of his body. "What are we doing?" she whispered. "Dancing." "That's not what I meant." "I know." Storm's jaw tightened. "I don't know, Zara. I don't know what this is or where it's going or if I'm making the worst mistake of my life by letting you close again. Or the best decision. Or that." His eyes met hers, dark and turbulent. "You terrify me. The idea of trusting you again, of letting myself feel what I felt 8 years ago, it's terrifying." "I'm terrified too." "Of what?" "Of losing you again. Of not being brave enough when it matters." Zara's voice shook slightly. "Of watching you marry Lady Beatrice because I destroyed your ability to believe in love." The music shifted, slowing. Storm's hand slid from her waist to the small of her back, pulling her closer than propriety allowed. Around them, other couples danced, but Zara barely noticed. All her awareness focused on Storm, on the way he looked at her like she was something precious and dangerous simultaneously. "If I kissed you right now," he said quietly, "what would you do?" Zara's pulse jumped. "I'd kiss you back. Even knowing I might regret it tomorrow, even then." Storm's eyes dropped to her mouth. For one suspended moment, Zara thought he would do it, would close the distance between them and kiss her in front of everyone. Then the music ended. Storm stepped back immediately, releasing her. His expression shuttered, walls slamming back into place. "Thank you for the dance, Miss Mansoor." The formality of it stung. Storm. "I should return to my other guests, if you'll excuse me." He bowed, perfectly polite, perfectly distant, and walked away, leaving Zara standing on the terrace, her heart in pieces. She watched him disappear into the storm, his words echoing in her head. "I can't let myself fall for you again, just to watch you leave when things get difficult." And Zara realized with devastating clarity that kissing her had terrified Storm more than ignoring her ever had, because now he knew the truth. He still loved her. And love for Storm meant vulnerability, meant risk, meant the possibility of being shattered again. She'd broken him once. He was terrified she'd do it again, and Zara had no idea how to prove she wouldn't. Chapter 6. The Past Returns. The storm finally broke on the fourth morning, leaving Ravenhill's grounds waterlogged but passable. Zara woke to pale sunlight streaming through her windows, and the sound of carriages being prepared in the courtyard below. Freedom. Escape from the house where she'd kissed Storm, and then watched him flee into the rain. Where she'd spent the past 3 days carefully avoiding him, while her heart shattered a little more each time she glimpsed him across a room. He'd been polite since that night on the terrace. Distant. He'd danced with Lady Beatrice twice more, conversed with the male guests about politics and hunting, played the perfect host. And he'd looked at Zara exactly once, a single searing glance across the breakfast table that had made her breath stop. Then he'd looked away and hadn't looked back. "Thank heavens," her mother said at breakfast, surveying the clearing skies. "We can finally return to London. Your father's ship arrives tomorrow, Zara. He'll be pleased to hear how well you've comported yourself." Zara's stomach dropped. "Father's coming to England?" "Of course. Did I not mention it? He's sailing from New York for Lila's wedding. Should arrive at the docks tomorrow afternoon." Her mother smiled brightly. "He's bringing wonderful news too. Mr. Theodore Preston is accompanying him." The room tilted slightly. "Mr. Preston? Why? To court you, naturally. Your father's been corresponding with his family for months. Mr. Preston is quite eager to meet you properly." Across the table, Lila's eyes widened with alarm. Storm, seated at the head, had gone very still. "I see," Zara managed, her voice hollow. "It's a brilliant match, darling. The Preston fortune is even larger than ours, and Theodore is such a respectable young man. Your father has high hopes." "Does he?" It wasn't a question. "Indeed. He wrote that if all goes well, you might marry shortly after Lila's wedding. Isn't that wonderful? 2 weddings." Zara's hands clenched in her lap. "Mother, I haven't agreed to." "Don't be difficult, Zara. You've refused 7 proposals already. Your father's patience is wearing thin." Her mother's voice sharpened. "You're 28 years old. It's past time you settled." "Perhaps Miss Mansoor has her own preferences regarding marriage," Storm said quietly. Every head at the table turned to him. He'd barely spoken all breakfast, and now he was defending Zara? Her mother blinked. "Preferences, my lord? Surely a woman has the right to choose her own husband, even in America." Storm's tone was perfectly polite, but his eyes were hard. Or is Miss Mansoor's consent irrelevant to her family? Of course her consent matters, but sometimes young women need guidance. They can be rather foolish about such matters, choosing romance over practicality. Her mother laughed lightly. "I'm sure you understand, Lord Stormford. Love is lovely, but it doesn't pay the bills." Storm's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Indeed, how practical. The conversation moved on, but Zara couldn't focus. Her father was coming, with Theodore Preston in tow. Ready to arrange a marriage Zara had no intention of accepting. After breakfast she fled to the gardens, still muddy but blessedly empty. She was standing by the ruined rose arbor when footsteps crunched on gravel behind her. Running away won't help, Zara turned. Storm stood a careful distance away, hands in his pockets, his expression unreadable. "I'm not running, I'm thinking. About Mr. Preston? About how to tell my father I'd rather die than marry him." Storm's mouth twitched slightly. "That's rather dramatic." "Is it? You heard my mother. Father's already decided. He's bringing Preston here like a prize stallion to parade in front of me." "And you have no say in the matter?" "I'm a Mansoor daughter. I'm expected to marry well and produce respectable children and not cause trouble." Zara laughed bitterly. Preferences are for men and unmarried women with spines. You have a spine. I've seen evidence of it. Have you? Because 8 years ago I let my father dictate my entire future. I'm not sure that's changed. Storm stepped closer. What will you do? I don't know. Say no, probably. Watch my father turn purple with rage. Get lectured about duty and family obligation and wasting my youth on foolish dreams. Zara met his eyes, the same things he said 8 years ago when I told him I loved you. Something flickered across Storm's face. Pain, maybe. Or longing. Will you refuse him, Preston? Yes. Even if it means being cut off? Disowned? Yes. Zara's voice didn't waver. I'd rather be poor and alone than married to someone I don't love. I learned that lesson rather thoroughly, thank you. Storm was quiet for a long moment. What if your father forces the issue, threatens Layla's prospects or your mother's position? Then I'll deal with that too. But I won't marry Preston. I won't make the same mistake twice. What mistake is that? Choosing safety over happiness, letting fear dictate my life. Zara took a shaky breath. I lost you once because I was too afraid to fight for what I wanted. I won't do it again. Even though I've given you no indication I want to be fought for. The blunt question hurt, but Zara forced herself to answer honestly. Even then, because you deserve to know that someone would choose you, title or no title, fortune or no fortune. Even if you never forgive me, I want you to know that. Storm's throat worked. Zara, Lord Stormford. A servant hurried toward them. Begging your pardon, my lord, but there's a messenger from London. Urgent correspondence. Storm's expression shuttered. Thank you. I'll come directly. He turned back to Zara. We should return to the house. Your family will be leaving soon. He walked away before Zara could respond, leaving her alone among the damaged roses. The journey back to London took 6 hours. Zara spent them in silence, watching the countryside roll past, while her mother chatted about wedding preparations and Mr. Preston's sterling qualities. He's 32, darling. Perfect age, and so handsome. Dark hair, blue eyes, excellent teeth. Your father says he's quite taken with your portrait. How romantic, Zara muttered. He's in love with a painting. Don't be sour. First impressions matter, and your portrait is lovely. Layla, sitting across from Zara, caught her eye and mouthed, I'm sorry. Zara managed a wan smile. None of this was Layla's fault. They arrived at Hartley House as evening fell. Zara barely had time to change for dinner before her mother was bustling her downstairs again. Your father will be here tomorrow morning. We must have everything perfect, and you must look your absolute best when you meet Mr. Preston. Mother, I'm not going to. First impressions, Zara. I won't have you sabotaging this match because you're in one of your moods. Dinner was torture. Zara pushed food around her plate, contributed minimally to conversation, and excused herself early with a headache that wasn't entirely feigned. In her room, she paced. Tomorrow her father would arrive with Theodore Preston. Tomorrow she'd have to refuse a match her entire family expected her to accept. Tomorrow everything would come to a head. I won't make the same mistake twice, she told Storm. But saying it and doing it were different things entirely. A knock on her door made her jump. Come in. Layla slipped inside, her face worried. Are you all right? No, not remotely. What will you do? About Preston? Say no. What else can I do? Father will be furious. You know how he gets when his plans are thwarted. Layla gripped Zara's hands. Maybe you should meet Preston first. Maybe he's not as terrible as you think. He could be a saint and I wouldn't marry him. I don't love him. Do you still love Storm? Yes. The admission came easily now. Even if he never forgives me, even if he marries Lady Beatrice, I'll still love him. I can't help it. Layla's eyes filled with tears. That's the most romantic and tragic thing I've ever heard. It's pathetic is what it is. It's not. You're finally being brave, finally fighting for what you want. Layla hugged her tightly. I'm proud of you, even if this all ends horribly. Thanks for the vote of confidence. I'm just being realistic. Father's going to be impossible. Layla had no idea how right she was. Zara's father arrived the next morning like a conquering general, loud, confident, and utterly certain of his welcome. Theodore Preston followed in his wake, tall, dark-haired, conventionally handsome, and so bland Zara could barely look at him without her eyes glazing over. Zara, my dear girl! Her father swept her into a crushing hug. Let me look at you, beautiful as ever, Preston, come meet my eldest daughter." Theodore stepped forward with a practiced smile. "Miss Mansoor, a pleasure. Your father speaks of you constantly." "Does he? How kind." Zara's voice could have frozen water. Her father, oblivious, clapped Preston on the shoulder. "Magnificent, isn't she? Exactly as I described. Now then, I've arranged a lovely outing for you two to become acquainted. Hyde Park this afternoon, followed by tea at—" "Father," Zara interrupted, "might I speak with you privately?" "Later, dear. Preston and I have just arrived. Surely your questions can wait until—" "No, they can't." Zara's hands clenched. "Please, it's rather urgent." Something in her voice finally reached him. "Very well, my study, now." Zara followed him into the borrowed study at Hartley House, her heart hammering. Her father closed the door and turned to her with a frown. "What's this about, Zara? You're being rather rude to our guest. I'm not going to marry Mr. Preston." Silence. Her father stared at her like she'd grown a second head. "I beg your pardon? I won't marry him. Father, I don't love him. I don't even know him." "Love?" Her father's face reddened. "What does love have to do with anything? Preston is wealthy, respectable, eager to marry you. And I'm not eager to marry him." "That's irrelevant. Good God, Zara, you've refused 7 perfectly acceptable proposals. 7! Your mother and I have been patient, but this ends now. You will marry Preston when we return to New York, and that's final." "No." "No?" Her father's voice rose. "You dare tell me no?" "I do. I'm 28 years old, Father. Old enough to make my own choices." "Choices? You've made nothing but foolish choices your entire life. Refusing every suitable match, moping about like some tragic heroine. I refused them because I didn't love them. Love fades, Zara. Comfort endures. How many times must I tell you this?" Her father began pacing, agitated. "You think I married your mother for love? I married her because it was practical, because our families aligned and the match made sense, and we've been perfectly content." "Content isn't enough for me. Then you're a fool, a spoiled romantic fool who doesn't understand how the world works." He stopped pacing. His eyes hardened. "Do you know what happens to women who refuse to marry? They become burdens, embarrassments. Your mother and I won't live forever, Zara. What will you do then? Live off Layla's charity? Become a governess? If necessary. Don't be absurd." His voice dropped, turning cold. "You will marry Preston. You will do your duty to this family, and you will stop this childish rebellion immediately. What if I won't? Then you'll be cut off, completely. No inheritance, no support, nothing." He leaned closer. "And before you think you can simply find work somewhere, know that I'll make certain no respectable family will hire you. I have connections, Zara. I will ruin any prospect you might have of supporting yourself." Zara's hands trembled, but her voice stayed steady. "You'd do that? To your own daughter? To save you from your own stupidity?" "Absolutely." He straightened. "Now you will go upstairs, change into something more flattering, and join Preston for that outing. You will be charming and pleasant and give this match a proper chance. Do you understand me?" "Perfectly." "Good. We'll speak more of this later. Hopefully after you've come to your senses." He left, slamming the door behind him. Zara sank into a chair, her entire body shaking. This was it. The ultimatum. Marry Preston or lose everything. 8 years ago, that threat had been enough to make her comply, enough to make her reject Dominic and choose safety. But she wasn't 20 anymore, and she'd already lost the only thing that truly mattered. The door opened again. Zara looked up, expecting her mother. It was Storm. He stood in the doorway, his expression tight with barely controlled anger. "I was in the hall. I heard everything." Zara's cheeks burned. "You were eavesdropping?" "I was waiting to speak with Lord Hartley when your father's voice carried through the door. Rather difficult not to overhear." Storm stepped inside, closing the door. "He threatened you. He's trying to force me into a practical marriage. You of all people should appreciate that approach." "Don't." Storm's voice was sharp. "Don't deflect with sarcasm. Your father just threatened to cut you off and ruin your prospects if you don't marry a man you've never met. That's not practical. That's cruel. It's the same thing he did 8 years ago. Seems to be his preferred method." Storm crossed to her in 3 strides, crouching so they were eye level. "What will you do?" "I don't know. Say no and face the consequences, I suppose." "Which are disownment, poverty, becoming a social pariah." Zara laughed shakily. The same things I was terrified of 8 years ago. Funny how they don't seem quite as frightening now. Zara, I mean it. The worst thing that ever happened to me wasn't poverty or social ruin. It was losing you. Everything else is just details. Storm's eyes searched her face. You're really going to refuse him? Even knowing what it will cost you? Yes. Why? Because I learned something these past 8 years. Safety without happiness is just another kind of prison, and I'm done being afraid. Zara met his gaze steadily. I'd rather be poor and free than wealthy and miserable. Your father won't make it easy. He'll fight you. I know. You'll lose everything. I already lost everything that mattered. Zara's voice broke slightly. At least this time I'll lose it on my own terms. Storm was quiet for a long moment, then he stood, offering his hand. Come with me. Where? Somewhere your father can't bully you. Somewhere you can think clearly. Zara took his hand, letting him pull her to her feet. Storm, I can't just leave. Why not? Your father's busy with Preston. Your mother's planning the wedding. No one will miss you for an hour. His grip tightened. Trust me, please. She did. Against all logic, against all the hurt between them, Zara trusted him. They slipped out through the garden entrance, avoiding the main rooms. Storm led her to his waiting carriage, helped her inside, and gave his driver an address Zara didn't recognize. Where are we going? My townhouse. It's quiet, and we won't be interrupted. The journey took 20 minutes. Storm's London residence was smaller than Ravenhill, but no less impressive, elegant, tasteful, clearly expensive. He led her to a sitting room overlooking the square and poured her a brandy without asking. Drink. You look like you need it. Zara obeyed, the liquid burning down her throat. Why did you bring me here? Because watching your father threaten you made me want to punch something, and I thought removing you from the situation was more productive than violence. Despite everything, Zara smiled. How restrained of you. I'm very civilized these days. Storm poured himself a brandy, then settled across from her. Tell me about Preston. What do you know of him? Almost nothing. Father's been corresponding with his family, but I've never met him. Apparently he's wealthy, respectable, and eager to acquire a well-bred wife. The perfect match, according to my parents. And according to you? According to me, he could be perfect in every way, and I still wouldn't marry him. Because you don't love him. Because I love you. The words came out raw, honest, and I'm tired of pretending otherwise. Storm's brandy glass paused halfway to his lips. Zara, I know you don't want to hear it. I know you haven't forgiven me. But it's the truth, Dominic. I love you. I've loved you for 8 years, and I'd rather spend the rest of my life poor and alone than married to someone else while pretending I don't. Storm set down his glass with a sharp click. Do you have any idea what you're saying? What you're risking? Yes. Your father will disown you. You'll have nothing. I'll have my self-respect. That's more than I had 8 years ago. Self-respect doesn't pay for food or lodging. Then I'll find work. I'm educated. I speak 3 languages. You've never worked a day in your life, Zara. You have no idea what you're facing. Then I'll learn. Zara stood, frustration boiling over. Why are you trying to talk me out of this? I thought you'd be pleased that I'm finally choosing love over money. I'm trying to make sure you understand what you're choosing. Storm stood too, his voice rough. 8 years ago, you rejected me because you were afraid of poverty. Now you're ready to embrace it because you think it will prove something to me. But what happens when reality sets in? When you're hungry and cold and realize exactly what you've given up? I'll survive. I'm stronger than I was at 20. Are you? Or are you just making another impulsive decision you'll regret later? Storm stepped closer, his eyes blazing. Because I can't. I won't go through that again. I won't let myself hope that you mean it only to watch you change your mind when things get difficult. I won't change my mind. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Because the worst thing that could happen to me already did. I lost you, Dominic. Everything else is just noise. They stared at each other, both breathing hard. Zara's hands shook. Storm's jaw was tight enough to crack. I need you to be sure, he said finally, his voice strained. I need you to understand exactly what you're risking. Because if you do this, if you refuse Preston and your father disowns you, there's no going back. I know. And you're willing to face that? Even if I can't promise you anything? Even if I'm still too broken to trust you? Zara's throat tightened. Yes. Storm closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, they were suspiciously bright. You're insane. Probably, but I'm your kind of insane. A choked laugh escaped him. God help us both. Before Zara could respond, rapid knocking sounded at the door. Storm cursed under his breath. My lord, his butler's voice, urgent. Begging your pardon, but there's a Mr. Mansoor here demanding to see you. He seems quite agitated. Zara's stomach plummeted. He followed us. Apparently. Storm's expression hardened. Stay here, I'll handle this. No, this is my fight. Then we'll face it together. Storm offered his arm. Shall we? Zara took it, her heart pounding. They descended to the entrance hall where her father stood, his face purple with rage. You, he pointed at Zara. Get in the carriage, now. No, don't you dare defy me. I said no, father. I won't marry Mr. Preston, and you can't force me. Her father's eyes narrowed. Lord Stormford, I apologize for my daughter's behaviour. She's clearly overwrought, if you'll excuse us. Miss Mansoor is my guest, Storm said coolly. She's welcome to stay as long as she wishes. Your guest? How dare you harbour my daughter without permission? She's 28 years old. She doesn't require your permission. She's my daughter, living under my roof, supported by my money. Her father's voice rose. And she will do as I say, or she'll find herself with nothing. Do you hear me, Zara? Nothing. Zara's hands clenched, but her voice stayed steady. Then I'll have nothing. That's my choice. You're being a fool, throwing away your entire future for what? Pride? Some childish notion of romance? Her father's lip curled. You've been indulging your whims long enough. You'll marry Preston when we return to New York, and that's final. No, Zara said clearly, I won't. And there it was, the line drawn, the choice made. Her father stared at her with fury and something that might have been disappointment. Very well, if that's your decision, you're no longer my daughter. No inheritance, no support, no family. You're on your own. The words should have terrified her. 8 years ago they had. Now they just felt like freedom. Chapter 7, Choose. The silence in Storm's entrance hall was deafening. Zara's father stood rigid with fury, his face mottled purple. Storm's hand had moved to Zara's elbow, a steadying presence, though his expression remained carefully neutral. Did you hear me, Zara? You're cut off. Finished. You'll have nothing. I heard you, and you still refuse to see sense. I refuse to marry a man I don't love to please you. If that makes me senseless, so be it. Her father's laugh was sharp and ugly. You think you're being noble? Brave? You're being a fool. A romantic fool who'll end up destitute and alone, regretting this moment for the rest of your miserable life. Perhaps, but at least it will be my life, my choice, your choice. Her father spat the words like a curse. Fine, make your choice, but don't come crawling back when you realize what you've thrown away. Don't expect mercy or forgiveness or a single penny of support. I won't. Good, then we have nothing more to discuss. He turned toward the door, then paused. Your mother will be devastated, you know, and Layla's prospects. Don't. Zara's voice went hard. Don't you dare use Layla against me. Her marriage to Lord Hartley is secure. You can't touch that. Can't I? When word gets out that the elder Mansoor daughter has been disowned for insubordination and loose morals. Mr. Mansoor. Storm's voice cut through the air like a blade. I believe you've said enough. Her father rounded on him. This is a family matter, Lord Stormford. It doesn't concern you. Doesn't it? You're threatening a woman under my protection. That concerns me quite directly. Under your protection? Her father's eyes narrowed. What exactly is your relationship with my daughter? That, Storm said coolly, is none of your business. It bloody well is my business when... Father, stop. Zara stepped forward, placing herself between the two men. Just stop. You've made your position clear. I've made mine. There's nothing left to say. Her father stared at her for a long moment. Something in his expression shifted, rage fading into something colder, more final. Very well. Goodbye, Zara. I hope your pride keeps you warm at night. He strode out, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. Zara stood frozen as the reality of what just happened crashed over her. She'd done it. Actually done it. Refused her father, refused Preston, chosen her own path, and lost everything in the process. Her legs gave out. Storm caught her before she hit the floor, his arms solid around her. Easy, I've got you. Zara's voice came out strangled. I know, breathe, Zara, just breathe. She did, shaky breaths, Storm's hold steady and grounding. Gradually her vision cleared, her heartbeat slowed, the panic receded. "I did it," she whispered. "You did. I have nothing now, no family, no money, no prospects. You have your freedom." Zara laughed, a sharp, broken sound. "Yes, freedom. How wonderfully expensive." Storm guided her to a chair in the sitting room, pressed a fresh glass of brandy into her hands. "Drink." She obeyed. The burn steadied her. "What happens now?" she asked quietly. "Now." Storm settled across from her, expression unreadable. "Now you figure out what you want." "I want," her throat closed. "I don't know. I thought refusing my father would feel triumphant. Instead, I just feel terrified. That's normal. You just upended your entire life." "For what? For principles? For some abstract idea of choosing love over money?" Zara set down the glass. "Maybe my father was right. Maybe I'm just a romantic fool. Are you regretting it already?" "No. Yes. I don't know." She pressed her hands to her face. "I'm terrified, Dominic. Absolutely terrified, but I don't regret it. Is that insane?" "Probably." Storm leaned forward, his voice softened. "But for what it's worth, I think you were magnificent." Zara's hands dropped. "What?" "Watching you stand up to your father, refuse to be bullied or threatened or manipulated." Storm's voice roughened. 8 years ago you let him dictate your future. Today you told him to go to hell. That took courage, Zara. Or stupidity. Sometimes they're the same thing. Storm stood abruptly, pacing to the window. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to answer honestly." "All right. Why did you refuse Preston? Was it really about choosing your own path? Or was it about me?" Silence stretched. Zara didn't lie. Both. Storm didn't move. She continued, "I refused him because marrying someone I don't love would be a betrayal of myself. But I also refused him because I'm in love with you." She swallowed. "And I couldn't marry someone else knowing you were in the world, even if you never forgive me. Even if you marry Lady Beatrice and build that practical, emotionless life you think you want." Storm's shoulders tensed. "You're telling me you just gave up your entire fortune and family for a man who can't even promise you anything?" "Yes. That's insane." "I know." "Zara," Storm turned fully, his expression raw and tortured. "Do you have any idea what you've done? You've made yourself completely vulnerable. If I walk away now, you have nothing." "I know that too." "Then why?" His voice cracked. "Why would you risk everything for someone who might not be able to give you what you need?" "Because 8 years ago, I chose safety over you, and it was the worst mistake of my life." Zara stood. "I won't make that mistake again, even if you can't love me back, even if all I ever have is the knowledge that I was finally brave enough to choose what mattered." Storm stared at her, chest rising and falling sharply. "You're going to destroy me." "What?" "You're going to absolutely destroy me, and I'm going to let you because I'm apparently incapable of learning from past mistakes." He crossed to her, 3 long strides, and cupped her face. "I love you. God help me, I never stopped. Even when I hated you, even when I built walls and convinced myself I didn't need anyone, I loved you." Zara's breath shuddered. "Dominic, I'm terrified." His thumb traced her cheekbone. "Terrified of trusting you again. Terrified that you'll change your mind when reality sets in. Terrified that I'm making the same mistake I made 8 years ago by believing you mean what you say. I do mean it, but I'm more terrified of letting you walk away, of watching you face your father's wrath alone, of spending the rest of my life wondering, what if?" Storm's forehead touched hers. "So I'm going to do something absolutely insane, and you're going to let me, because apparently we're both fools." "What are you?" Storm stepped back, went to his desk, opened a drawer. He turned, holding a small velvet box. Zara's heart stopped. "This," Storm said, his voice rough, "is the ring I offered you 8 years ago. My grandmother's ring. The only thing of value I owned when I proposed in New York." He opened the box. The simple gold band with its modest sapphire glinted in the afternoon light. "You kept it." Her voice broke. "I kept it. Told myself I was being practical, that I'd give it to my future wife someday. But the truth is, I kept it because some part of me always hoped." He stopped, jaw tightening. "I kept it because I'm a sentimental fool who couldn't let go." Zara's eyes blurred with tears. Storm crossed to her, sank to one knee right there in his sitting room, and held out the ring. "Zara Mansoor," he said, his voice shaking slightly. 8 years ago, I asked you to marry me. You said no, for reasons I understand better now than I did then. Today, you stood in this house and gave up everything for the chance, just the chance, that I might forgive you, that we might have another chance at what we lost. Dominic, I'm not asking you to marry me because you're destitute and I feel sorry for you. I'm asking because I love you, because I've loved you for 8 years, because watching you choose courage over comfort today reminded me why I fell in love with you in the first place. His eyes met hers, vulnerable and fierce simultaneously. So here it is, one more time. Will you marry me? Knowing I'm damaged and cynical and still learning to trust again, knowing your family will never forgive you, knowing we'll face scandal and gossip and probably a dozen other complications I haven't thought of yet. Zara's tears spilled over. Are you sure, Dominic? You don't have to. I'm not doing this out of obligation. I'm doing this because I want to, because you're brave and stubborn, and you make me remember what it feels like to hope. Storm's hand trembled slightly. So what do you say, Miss Mansoor? Will you take this ring? Will you choose me, knowing exactly what it costs this time? Zara dropped to her knees in front of him, framing his face with her hands. Yes. God, yes. I choose you. I should have chosen you 8 years ago, and I'm choosing you now. Storm's breath shuddered out. He slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, just like it had 8 years ago. And then he was kissing her, desperate and tender and full of 8 years of longing. Zara kissed him back with everything she had, tasting salt from tears she wasn't sure were his or hers or both. His arms wrapped around her, pulling her close, and for the first time in 8 years, she felt whole. When they finally broke apart, both were shaking. I'm terrified, Storm admitted, his forehead resting against hers. Me too. What if this is a mistake? Then we'll make it together. Zara's fingers tangled in his hair. No more running, no more letting fear win. Whatever happens, we face it as a team. Storm's laugh was shaky. A team, I like that. Good, because you're stuck with me now, Lord Stormford. I suppose there are worse fates. He pulled back enough to meet her eyes, and the warmth there made Zara's heart soar. Though your father's going to be apoplectic when he finds out. Let him. He already disowned me. What more can he do? Make a scene at Layla's wedding? Almost certainly. Should we warn her? Probably. Storm stood, pulling Zara up with him. Though first, I should probably inform my mother that I'm engaged. She's been pressuring me to marry for years. This should delight her. Will it? I come with no dowry now. No family connections. Just scandal and defiance. My mother, Storm said dryly, has been waiting for me to show genuine emotion about anything for 4 years. She'll be thrilled I'm marrying for love instead of convenience. Dowry be damned. A thought struck Zara. What about Lady Beatrice? You've been courting her. I've been going through the motions. There's a difference. Storm's hand found hers, their fingers intertwining. She'll understand. I think she already suspected, actually. Suspected what? That I was in love with someone else. She's more perceptive than people give her credit for. He raised Zara's hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to her knuckles just above the ring. Though I should probably tell her before the gossip reaches her. Professional courtesy. How very considerate. I'm an earl. We're trained in proper etiquette. Storm's expression turned serious. Zara, you understand what you're facing, don't you? The ton will gossip. Your father will make sure everyone knows you've been disowned. There will be whispers about your character, your motives. Let them whisper. I have you. That's all that matters. Storm's arms tightened around her. I don't deserve you. Probably not. But you're stuck with me anyway. They stood there, wrapped in each other, the afternoon light streaming through the windows. Outside, London continued its chaotic pace. Inside, 2 people who'd lost each other 8 years ago had finally found their way back. It wouldn't be easy. Zara knew that. Her father would make good on his threats. Society would judge her. The road ahead was fraught with complications and consequences. But for the first time in 8 years, Zara felt like she could breathe. She'd chosen love, chosen courage, chosen Dominic. And whatever came next, they'd face it together. We should go back to Hartley House, Zara said reluctantly. My mother will be frantic, and Layla deserves to hear the news from me. Are you ready to face them? No, but I'll do it anyway. Zara pulled back enough to meet his eyes. Will you come with me? Try to stop me. Storm kissed her forehead. We're a team now, remember? Where you go, I go. Even into the dragon's den, especially there. Your mother terrifies me slightly less than your father, but only just. Despite everything, Zara laughed. She does have that effect. They gathered themselves, straightened their clothes, tried to look less like two people who'd just upended their entire lives. Storm called for his carriage, helped Zara inside with careful courtesy. The journey to Hartley House took 20 minutes. 20 minutes for Zara to gather her courage, to prepare for the confrontation ahead. Storm's hand found hers in the dim carriage. Whatever happens, I'm with you. I know. Zara squeezed his fingers. That's the only reason I'm brave enough to face this. The carriage stopped. Storm descended first, then handed Zara down with perfect pointed courtesy. They climbed the steps together, Storm's hand warm and steady at her elbow. The butler admitted them with a carefully neutral expression. Miss Mansoor, Lord Stormford, your family is in the drawing room, miss. They're expecting you. I'm sure they are. Zara took a breath. Thank you. Voices drifted from the drawing room, her mother's agitated tones, her father's anger, Layla's worried murmurs. Zara paused at the threshold, steeling herself. Storm's hand tightened on hers. Ready? As I'll ever be. They entered together. The room fell silent. Zara's mother stood by the window, her face tear-stained. Her father paced near the fireplace, fury radiating from every line of his body. Layla sat on the settee, her eyes red from crying. Theodore Preston stood awkwardly near the door, clearly wishing he were anywhere else. Zara! Her mother rushed forward. Thank God! Your father said you'd been disowned, that you refused Mr. Preston. I did refuse him, Mother, and I'm not coming back. Her mother's face crumpled. But darling, you can't. You have nothing. She has me. Every eye in the room swiveled to Storm. He stood tall and unwavering, his hand still clasped with Zara's. I beg your pardon, Zara's father said dangerously. Miss Mansoor has me, Storm repeated calmly. As of 20 minutes ago, she's my fiancée. We're to be married. The silence that followed could have shattered glass. Then everyone spoke at once. Fiancée? Lord Stormford, surely! Oh, Zara! This is outrageous! Storm waited for the noise to die down before continuing. Miss Mansoor has made her choice. She's chosen me over your arranged marriage. I suggest you respect that decision. Zara's father's face had gone from purple to an alarming shade of crimson. You seduced my daughter, turned her against her family. I did nothing of the sort. Your daughter made her own choice without coercion from anyone. A choice to throw away her future, her family, everything. A choice to marry for love instead of obligation, Storm corrected. Radical, I know, but there it is. This is a disaster, Zara's mother moaned. The scandal will be significant, Storm agreed pleasantly, but manageable. I'm an earl, after all. The ton forgives quite a bit when sufficient rank is involved. You think your title will protect her? Zara's father spat. You think society will simply accept this elopement? We're not eloping. We'll marry properly with all due ceremony. Storm's voice hardened. Though I confess your blessing would be irrelevant even if offered. Miss Mansoor is of age. She requires no permission. Zara found her voice. Father, Mother, I'm sorry this isn't what you wanted, but it's what I want, what I've always wanted, if I'm honest. She looked at Storm, then back to her parents. I love him. I've loved him for 8 years, and I'm going to marry him, with or without your approval. Her mother dissolved into fresh tears. Her father looked like he wanted to commit violence. You'll regret this, he said, his voice shaking. Mark my words, Zara. You'll regret throwing away everything for a man who loves me, Zara interrupted quietly, who values me enough to fight for me, who doesn't see me as a commodity to be traded for business connections. She stepped forward. I'm sorry I'm not the obedient daughter you wanted, but I'm finally being honest about what I need. That has to count for something. It counts for nothing. Her father turned away. You're no longer my daughter. I meant what I said. Not a penny, not a word of support. You're on your own. Then, I'm on my own. Zara's voice didn't waver. I can live with that. Layla suddenly stood, crossing to Zara with tears streaming down her face. I'm proud of you, she whispered, hugging her sister tightly. So proud. Layla, their father barked. Step away from her. Now. No. Layla's voice, usually so soft, turned to steel. She's my sister. I won't abandon her because she chose love over money. You'll do as you're told. I'll support my sister, Layla said firmly. You can't make me cut her off, Father. I won't do it. Their father looked like he might explode. Their mother sobbed into a handkerchief. Theodore Preston edged toward the door, clearly desperate to escape. Storm, standing calm and solid beside Zara, spoke quietly. Mr. Mansoor, I understand you're angry, but I can promise you this. I will take care of your daughter. She'll want for nothing, and I will love her for the rest of my life. Your promises mean nothing to me. Perhaps not, but they mean everything to her, and that's what matters. Zara's father opened his mouth, presumably to continue the argument, but Zara had had enough. We're leaving, she said quietly. Storm, would you escort me out? With pleasure. They turned to go. Zara paused at the door, looking back at her parents one last time. I'm sorry it came to this, she said softly, but I'm not sorry for my choice. I choose love. I choose Dominic. I should have chosen him 8 years ago, and I'm choosing him now. Then she walked out, Storm's hand warm and steady in hers, leaving her old life behind. In the entrance hall, Layla caught up to them, breathless. Wait, Zara, You should go back, Zara said gently. Your wedding is in 3 days. Don't let our family drama ruin that. It won't ruin anything. David will understand. Layla gripped Zara's hands. Are you sure about this? Truly sure? More sure than I've been about anything in my life. Then I'm happy for you, both of you. Layla looked at Storm. Take care of her, my lord. With my life, Storm promised. Layla hugged Zara one more time, then hurried back inside, probably to face their parents' wrath. In the carriage, alone at last, Zara finally let herself feel the weight of what had happened. She'd defied her father, chosen Storm, lost her family, gained everything that mattered. Are you all right? Storm asked quietly. I don't know. Ask me tomorrow. Zara looked down at the ring on her finger, the same ring she'd rejected 8 years ago, now a symbol of second chances and hard-won courage. Do you think we're insane? Absolutely. Storm pulled her close, his arm around her shoulders. But I'd rather be insane with you than sensible without you. Zara laughed, the sound verging on hysterical. What happens now? Now we scandalize society by getting married with unseemly haste. We face down gossip and judgment and probably a dozen complications neither of us has anticipated. We build a life together despite everything working against us. Sounds terrible. Probably will be. Storm kissed her temple, but at least we'll be terrible together. Zara turned in his arms, meeting his eyes. I love you. I don't think I've actually said that today. I love you too. Have done for 8 years, apparently. Storm's thumb traced her jawline. Think you can put up with me for the next 60 or so? I'll try my best. That's all I ask. They kissed as the carriage rolled through London streets, carrying them toward an uncertain future. But for the first time in 8 years, Zara wasn't afraid. She'd chosen love, chosen courage, chosen Dominic. And whatever came next, scandal, gossip, her father's wrath, she'd face it with Storm beside her. Some love stories were simple. Theirs had taken 8 years, 2 continents, a rejected proposal, and a lot of painful growth. But it was worth every single moment. Because this time, when she had to choose between safety and love, between her family's approval and her own happiness, Zara chose love. And she'd keep choosing it every day for the rest of her life. Thank you so much for listening to this story. If you enjoyed it, please leave a comment below and let me know what you thought. I truly love reading them. I'd also love to know where you're listening from. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next story. There are many more romance audiobooks waiting for you here.